In this video, I'm going to talk about another technique of inventory analysis, inventory control, which is called ABC analysis. The method is as simple as the words ABC, the expression ABC. Here is how this technique is used. Now, in business, in the manufacturing business particularly, a large number of items, different types of raw materials are stored. You have to source various types of material which go into the finished goods. Now, some of the materials are more costly than the others, and some of the items like spares or smaller nuts and bolts, things like that are going to be cheaper. So you want to focus the energy management wants to focus its energy on things which are more valuable, which whose total value is much higher than the rest, even if the quantity of these things are going to be is going to be less. So it's important to classify the stock items into different categories so that we can exercise varied level of control on different types of stock items, and that is where ABC technique comes in. Now you want to so in this technique we classify the stock items into three categories: category A, category B, and category C, and the order in the order of importance. So stock items in category A are highly important because large sums of money is blocked in these types of stock items, and B is moderately important, C is least important. Now, how do you give importance? How do you provide a weightage to these different these three types of stocks, and what kind of stock items are going to go fit into these three categories? That's the next question. So, category A, B, and C are going to have varied levels of value and volume. Value means monetary value in, let's say, currency in rupees, and the volume is going to be in terms of number of units that you have to put in stock. So category A stock items are those items which carry. So if during the year you are carrying X number of units in the stock, then 70 to 80% of the total stock value is carried by category A items. In other words, the stock items which carry about 80%, 70 to 80% of the total money blocked in the stock, they should be categorized as category A. Also, another characteristic of this is that in terms of volume, in terms of number of units, these types of stock items only constitute 5 to 15% of the total number of units in the stock. So these are high value items. Per unit price of these stock items is typically very high compared to the rest of the stock items. Likewise, the category C is going to have the opposite combination of value and volume. So category C is going to, the stock items in category C are going to constitute only 5 to 10% of the total value, monetary value of the total stock. However, they are going to constitute about 50 to 60% of the volume of the stock. So their per unit price is going to be typically lower compared to category A stock items. Category B is in the middle, moderate value, moderate volume. So these are estimated numbers. If you look at different texts, they will give you some texts give you certain numbers, say 80% or 75%. Others give ranges. It's always safer, better to play with the ranges than specific number. So I have these ranges here after consulting some books. So category A items where you've blocked a lot of money, you should be more careful in monitoring these stock items. You have to make sure that you are budgeting for these, you are exercising controls, checks, audits on these stock items more regularly compared to B and C, because more money is stuck here. And B needs, if you need any monitoring, so need based intervention is what you're going to exercise on type B stock items. Type C, since they comprise a very low value of the total stock, you exercise little control over these items. Once you have created these bands for the different items in the stock, now you can choose where you want to exercise what type of control, and that is what makes management of the stock more efficient. So operating efficiency improves and business does well. Ultimately, the overall goal of the organization is to use its resources in most efficient possible way so that it can maximize its profits. So that's what the technique is for. It contributes into that direction for the business. So the benefits of the technique: selective control. You could choose where you want to pay attention and where not, and also you can do control by exception. You can choose which items to from time to time change or shift your focus if need be. Let us now take an example to see how ABC analysis would be used in practice. On this slide, I have 10 different stock items, their per unit cost price, and the annual usage of a particular item of stock. So, if you notice, you have unit price ranging between minimum of 20 to maximum of 800. So there is a wide range within which the per unit cost of the stock items vary. Likewise, the annual usage is also different. For some of the stock items, we have annual usage equal to 50, and for others, there is 150, 160 units being bought in a given year. So the management needs to figure out on which stock items should they pay more attention, and to which stock items they need not pay that much attention, so that all of this in an effort to optimize, to be more efficient in the operations of the business. So what we're going to do is we are going to figure out the total amount blocked in each of the stock item using the annual usage numbers. So per unit cost for stock item number 1 is 75, multiplied by 100 is going to give me 7500, which is the money which is put into this stock item number 1. So using that as the guide, we have this new column here which gives me value of these 10 stock items. This is the amount blocked in these. Now this value is what is going to create the relative importance for each of the stock item. Wherever we put in more money, that stock item is more valuable to us. And also I have two new columns here which give me the percent of total value. Now how do we calculate this? Is as follows. We have the value of item 1, divide this by value of all the items taken together, which means total money invested in the stock in a given time period, which is 1 year here, because this is annual usage. So 7500 divided by total of this column here, multiplied by 100. So that's how this column comes about. Percent of quantity is using the same formula. We are just using data from annual usage column. So 100 divided by sum of all the units of the 10 different stock items, which is 1000, gives me 10%, and hence this column. The reason we have these columns is because we have this guide. If you remember this earlier, we have this guide which says percentage of value and percentage of volume, and that's what we have exactly figured out in this table. Now that we have percentage value contributed by each stock item and percentage quantity, we can because the value is the most important thing, we are going to arrange this table in the descending order according to this column. So whichever item contributes the most, for example, item number 10 contributes 42% of the value. Contributes, or in other words, it has blocked 42% of the total money blocked in the stock. So about 42% of the money blocked in the stock is actually blocked only in item 9 of the stock items. So that's how you could understand this better. So what I'm going to do is arrange this table in the descending order according to this column, and then create a couple of new columns which I'm going to talk about by showing you a new table now. So ignore these two columns for now. All I've done is I've arranged in descending order. So here you have item 9 at the top, which has 42% of the value and which is 7% of the quantity. I go back here, item 7, item 9, 42% and 7%. Item 9, 42% and 7%. Let's do another check. Let's say item 6, 4% of value and 15% of value. Item 6, 4% and 15%. So all I've done is just in the Excel sheet organize this better so that the stock items which contribute most to the total money, total amount blocked in the stock come at the top. And the percentage of quantity is being shown as it is. We are not doing any sorting using this column. Now I've created two new columns. What I'm doing in these columns is I'm calculating cumulative value. Cumulative value means with each new item, how much total money is blocked in the stock. With item number 9, we have blocked 42% here. With item number 8 also, we have blocked another 14%, so totaling to 56% and so on for both the columns. So the purpose of having this column here is to figure out which all items lead to or which all items contribute to about 70%, roughly 70% of the stock value, because that's our formula here, 70 to 80% of the value. So if we, here, so you see here you have 42%, 56, 73, 78. So about first 3 or 4 units, which is item number 9, 8, 2 and 4, these are contributing to about 70 to 80% of the value. Also, we have to look at about 5 to 15% of the volume. That's also a cut. So 5 to 15% of the volume would will guide you to restrict to third item on this list, which is item number 2. So accordingly, the first 3 items which are blocking 73% of the money, they are also blocking about a little more than 15%, but roughly so. If you have to apply that grid on this practice problem, then the first 3 items should be classified as category A stock items, and the management should be more careful about these items. And then you could, of course, further go on to categorizing, classifying stock items into B and C categories. I've done that as follows. So next 3 stock items, which is stock item 1, 4 and 6, they are contributing to up to 87%. So they are giving you an additional 30, 32%, 17, 22, 32, that's right, 32% of the value. And in terms of volume, you have about 11, 15% of the volume. So 32 and 15, and you look at this guide, 32 and 15. So volume and 15% of the value, that's right. Yeah. So this is B category of item, and then you have remaining in C category of items. So the rubric does not always fit onto the data, but the broad guidelines can be drawn onto any stock list that you may have. And of course, depending upon the objectives of the company, do you want to give more focus, more priority to value or to quantity? That's on the company. Which specific items they want to control and so on. Specific questions can be answered on case-to-case basis with a given context. So this is how a technique called ABC analysis is used in analyzing the stock items using their contribution to value, their monetary value and their quantity as the guides to categorize them. I'll see you in the next video.